Searching for Oneself, Lecture 1603. Listening to your lectures, I understand that until we know our true self, we can neither understand our neighbor nor our surroundings. In fact, without wisdom and discernment, a lack of self-knowledge would bring us only anguish and suffering. Master, please tell us how you were able to succeed. When I was young, I thought I was a really good person, yet I couldn't get along with anyone. In the end, I was reduced to living in a miserable state, so much so that everyone tried to avoid me. It was then that I made the decision to put an end to my days. I left the city and headed for the mountains with the firm intention of taking my own life. When I got there, I wanted to at least take a walk, to say one last goodbye to nature before leaving, but I only had time for reflection. I knew nothing of the world and even less about who I was. Nevertheless, I had lived until then in an arrogant way. And it was when I became aware of this truth that I fell to my knees and started picking up garbage. On my knees, I began to ask myself questions. I asked myself who I really was, why I was walking around the world, and what was the reason for my existence. For 17 years, I wandered aimlessly up and down that mountain in the company of these questions, collecting rubbish and avoiding talking to anyone I met. I had certainly not gone up there with the aim of studying, but all the years I spent in the midst of nature made my study possible, and it was thanks to this that I was able to find myself. Slowly, I continued in my humble work. Nature began to reveal its secrets before my eyes. I didn't endeavor to look for myself at all. I just kept thinking and asking myself questions, and in doing so, without realizing it, and with this purity that grew within me, I understood and became part of nature itself. I was able to visit other dimensions and places where gods and souls dwell. In this way, I could study. I understood how creation happened, who we are, and why the earth exists. At that time, nature was in charge of teaching me everything, and so I was able to witness extraordinary things. Without realizing it, my study continued for all those years I spent at the foot of that mountain, and in the end came time of return. After 17 years of living in that place, I was ready to return to society. It was then that I was suddenly awakened by a thunderous sound coming from heaven. My whole body was shaken by it. Chun, Bu, Gyung. 81 characters. It was at that precise moment that the 81 characters of Chun, Bu, Gyung were delivered to me, and my whole body witnessed it. I understood that these were the words of heaven, and that all of my study, conducted over those 17 years, was enclosed within those 81 precious characters. Chun, Bu, Gyung explained how the laws of nature operate. I understood about the Hongikengans, those who were born with the sole purpose of benefiting others. I realized that it is up to them to guard this powerful law and bear witness to it. I also understood that it is completely up to them to usher in a new era and lead everyone on this path. I left that mountain and went to visit towns and villages, and it was during those journeys that I realized what a wonderful work of art the world of ours truly was. On those occasions, I could also see that the Hongikengans, albeit going about their daily life, were not yet ready to carry out the task assigned to them. I understood that our evolution had come to a standstill and that our children did not know which path to take, so I took it upon myself to design it for them. If the first generation of Hongikengans had lived with respect for nature, benefiting their neighbors, the next generations would have merely followed in their footsteps. We are not divided, nor can we be, since we are all one. It is only by profoundly realizing such a principle that the time of the Hongikengans can arise. By working hard for the benefit of others, as is in their nature, they will eventually succeed in breaking the chains of the past that keep them imprisoned. These people, who are so precious and important to society, should live according to the Hongik ethics. What can I do for my neighbor? What can I do for my country? What can I do for society? And what can I do for all mankind? They should grow with these principles deep in their hearts. All of you should do so. A life devoted to the benefit of others will flow in a gentle and natural way as you spread light and well-being to those around you. Since early 2013, a new way of life has begun to take hold and should be respected and followed by all. At that time, mankind entered the era of Huchanshide, in which the fundamental principles are marked by a strongly public concept of life, a concept that would put the we above everything else, and by the rule that would demand us to live for the benefit of others, according to the principles already mentioned in the Hongik ethics. And from now on, those who persist in living only for their personal interests and with increasing greed will only encounter difficulties on their path. More simply, those who continue to think only of themselves will witness the destruction of their lives. Living, instead, according to the foundations dictated by the Huchanshide era, we can traverse life with joy and serenity, and in doing so, we can also appease the sacrifices made by our ancestors, who opened up the way for us and allowed us to reach this goal, and express our gratitude to them. So make your life joyful. Do it so the suffering and sacrifices of those who have gone before us can be completely dissolved. The way has been opened. The path has begun.